Welcome to the stretching video. So this is a video that's going to be a modified version of the routine I do for my parents. So the way this video is going to work is I'm going to go through the whole routine. The routine is going to involve 2 sets of each stretch. So the first time I show the stretch, I'm going to do sort of the basic version of it. And the second time I show the stretch, I'll do the more advanced version of the stretch. So usually what will happen is we'll do the basic version, which will be like passive static stretching. The advanced version might involve some activeness or maybe some dynamic stretching. We're going to do 2 reps of each stretch. If you want to do 3 reps, that's great. If you want to do 4 reps, I would recommend just doing the routine twice per day. So 2 reps in the morning, 2 reps at night or whatever. We're going to work up the body in general. So we're going to start on the lower extremities and move up. However, as we do it, I'm going to try and move stretches back to back so you don't have a rest period. You just do one stretch, move into the other one, move back and forth. So we'll kind of jump around a little bit, but generally we'll be moving up the body, starting at the calves, finishing at the wrists. So we have some apparati we might need. So first of all, a wall, a floor, obviously. I have a table set up here, so some kind of elevated surface, and then a chair we'll be using as well. The last thing you would need is a timer. I'll just be using my watch. There are lots of good interval timers for apps for your phone. So I have one called Impetus, which is for Android. There's probably tons for Apple, and they're good because you can program in a timer plus a rest period, and the rest period will give you a chance to get up and get in position ready for the next stretch. And you can just kind of work through it without looking at a watch, just listening to some beeps. All right, so before we get started, some of these are going to involve being on the floor. I believe you can get through this whole routine without going to the floor. There's always something that's not on the floor, but some of them are going to be on the floor. So let's talk about getting up and down off the floor. First of all, I would recommend doing the parts that are on the floor because getting up and down off the floor is actually a really good mobility exercise, right? It's very good to figure out different ways to move up and down off the floor. It gets stability and balance and stuff going. So if you can get comfortable going up and down off the floor, that's actually a very good mobility exercise. So let's look at a way to get up and down off the floor. If you have a way you'd like to get up and down off the floor, then just stick with that. But I'll show you, for example, one. So it's going to be slow and controlled. So we're going to have our feet standing normally, and we're going to bend over and try and bend as much as we can at our knees and then also at our hips until we can just put our hands on the ground. So be in a nice stable position here. And then we're going to move down to one knee, and then we're going to move down to the other knee. Then we're going to take one of our knees and move it slightly towards the center and sit to that hip, nice and slowly. And then we can just roll ourselves over and we'll be in a seated position. To get back up, we just reverse it. So put a hand beside you and roll yourself up to your knees. So you'll be right here. This is the hardest part, pushing yourself up to your knees. Move your knees together, then step up with one leg, step up with 2 legs, look up, and then stand up nice and in control. Okay? If you have your own way to get down on the ground, that's great. Go with that. So let's start out. I have a timer here, so I'll just look at this. So the first thing is the calf stretch. So we're going to start with either a wall or a table. I guess I'll use the table here. And we're just going to move our feet back and lean into the table until we feel a nice good stretch at the back of our shins. So behind our shins and our calves. And we'll hold that for about 30 seconds. All right, so the next stretch is going to be our quads, so the back of our thighs. What we're going to do for that is we're going to have our legs actually slightly bent, not fully locked out. We're just going to cross our arms together, and we're just going to hang down. Now, as you do these stretches, it's not a bad idea, I need my timer, it's not a bad idea to sort of move them around a little bit and find the position that works nicely for you. So you can play with keeping your legs straighter, or more bent. That'll stretch different muscles in the back. You can play with curving your back or maybe keeping your back straight. I like to curve it. You can also sort of just hang loosely, move a little bit to one side, move a little bit to the other side, and generally feel how the stretch will move and change as you sort of move small parts of your body around. So that's your hamstring stretch. All right, back to the calf stretch. So now for a dynamic stretch, a moving stretch, what you can do with this is you can use a wall or a table, and you can just sort of move in and out of the stretch by doing sort of a push-up against the wall or the table. And so just a gentle push-up, moving in and out of the stretch, pause at the bottom, feel a good stretch, come back out of it. Each time, move into the stretch until you feel a good stretch on the calf, and then move back out. Okay. And so active hamstring stretching, dynamic hamstring stretching. We're going to move into the stretch. Get a nice position, and then we're just going to come up. Keep our head up, raise our back. And then we're going to move into the stretch again. Hold it there for a second. Come up. As you come up, remember to look up. Or if you want to roll your back up as you come up, you can also do that. So either way, keeping a nice straight back or having a nice rolled back. Just each of those motions should be nice and smooth and controlled. All motions nice and smooth and controlled. All right, so next thing is the quads and the groin. So both of these are going to involve having a chair in front of you. I guess I'll move it to the side here. And this is for stability, for holding, making sure you're stable. So the quad stretch is a slightly difficult one, but I'm sure you can make it. You're going to basically hold onto the chair and lift one leg up and reach down and grab the ankle, and then pull it to your butt. Keep holding on the chair. And if you want to, you can move your hand back to your foot, or you can leave it at the ankle. I like the foot. And what you're just going to simply do is rotate this hip backwards. So just move this back until you feel a stretch in the quad. And then you're going to hold that for 30 seconds. Feeling a nice good stretch. You can move in and out of it. You can look at pulling your ankle up more or letting it down, moving your hips out, moving your hips back. Feel the different ways it can get stretched. All right, other side. Lift it up, bend down, grab the ankle, pull it back, and then rotate your hip back, moving your knee backwards until you feel a good stretch. And hold that. All right, so for the groin stretch, imagine I have the chair in front of me. I'm not going to use it because it'll obstruct the view. But we're simply going to move our legs wider apart by rocking our hips back and forth until we're in sort of a wide stance here. And then we're just going to lean to one side until we feel a gentle stretch in the side we're not leaning to. Again, we can have a chair here to stabilize ourselves, a chair beside us if we want to. You can rest your hand on your thigh to stabilize yourself. Okay, and then we'll do the other side. I'm going to actually show you one more option as we do this. If you can do that one, do that one. If you can't, or you don't feel comfortable having your legs that wide, and you can get down on the floor, there's the classic butterfly stretch where you put your feet together, move them in as close as you can, and then just gently push down on the outside of your knees. Okay. For the advanced version of the quadricep stretch, it's actually going to be the same stretch, but we're going to add in a little bit of stability training, which is rather than hold onto the chair, we're just going to have our hand hovered above the chair. Okay? So we're going to grab our ankle, reach down, grab it, pull it back. We're going to get in the stretch, maintain a slight bend in this knee, and then we're going to release the chair and just allow our muscles in our leg to stabilize us. So you're basically standing on one leg. Keep your hand on the chair, just slightly above it in case you need to grab it for stability. It's good to focus on a point on the ground. Looking up makes your balance harder. So focusing on a point on the ground can help your balance. And just maintain that balance with your hand above the chair. Okay. Slowly lower that leg. Hand back on the chair. Reach down, grab the other ankle. Lift it up. Get the stretch mobilized. Slight bend in the knee. Find your focal point in the ground. Lift your hand just hovering above the chair. Focus on maintaining stability using these muscles in your ankles and thighs. Very good stability training. Very good at keeping you grounded and in contact with the floor. If you need to grab the chair to stabilize yourself, go for it. All right. So the final one is going to be the advanced version of the groin stretch. And that's just going to be an active dynamic stretch. So we'll be moving and we'll be using the muscles we're stretching to help move us through the stretch. So again, we're going to slowly walk out. You can shuffle your feet like this if you want to. You can walk back and forth to a wide stance. You might start to feel a stretch in your groin already. That's fine. And then we're just going to move in a very slow, controlled motion back and forth for about a minute through these positions. Chair can be in front of you holding on to it. That's fantastic. You can use your hands to support yourself and your thighs. That's also great. But we're moving in and out in a controlled motion. So we're not bopping back and forth. We're not going fast. We're slowly lowering. We're finding our balance point. We're keeping ourselves balanced and centered. And we're going back. Okay, and we're going in a nice, slow, controlled motion through these movements. After this, we get to sit down. So we've done the inside, front, and back of our thighs. Now we're going to do the outside. We're going to do an IT band stretch, followed by a back stretch. So we're going to take our chair. We're going to have a seat. We're going to reach down, lift one of our legs, and cross it, just like the way guys cross their legs. Just going to take our hand and rest it on here and put very gentle pressure. Maybe even the weight of your hand is enough. Or if your leg's up here, maybe even just putting it there is enough. But we're just going to rest our hand on there and have nice gentle pressure. We're going to do this one with a straight back. If you have piriformis issues or want a piriformis stretch, a muscle in your butt, you can bend forward, and this will keep some of the IT band stretch, but also stretch your piriformis in the back. We'll be doing another separate stretch that I prefer for the piriformis, but that is a piriformis stretch you can do. Okay, slowly lower that. Raise the other leg. This is a good stretch, and I always have, and you might have too. A differential that I've basically never been able to get rid of is this leg is always slightly less flexible than the other one, owing to an old injury of my foot. Yeah, so as you're stretching, you might notice one side more or less flexible than the other. You can pay a little extra attention to that, but you should just stretch both sides, and often one side will catch up with the other. This one's, still inflexible. When I started doing the stretch, this one was up here, and the other one was flat, so we're pretty close now at least. Okay, now we're going to stretch the back, stretching the muscles up through the neck and up through the upper back section that run along your spine. We do this by basically taking our hands, lacing the fingers together, putting them behind our neck, and just letting sort of the weight droop us over. And this is another good stretch you can play around with by taking some pressure off your neck and focusing on curling your back over, or just letting it hang more in your neck. Feel the stretch all down through your neck, and it should go down, basically down your shoulder blades, in between them. It's not a very common stretch, and a lot of people end up being tight here. It's very common in jiu-jitsu because you fight inverted sometimes. You need to be able to basically touch your feet over your head on the mat. But a lot of people don't have flexibility through this side spinal column of their upper back. All right. No advanced stretches here, just the same thing. Cross the leg. If you want to, you can make these dynamic. You can go in and out of the stretch, that's fine, but I just keep them static. Okay. And the other one. Hopefully you have some music going on in the background, not just listening to me drone on about stretching. Seeing I left one off my list here. Have to add it in. And again, to our back, lacing hands behind the neck. Get a nice curl in that back. So this is not just a neck stretch. I'm not just keeping my back straight and pulling my neck down. I'm looking at really circling my spine to get a good stretch through all the muscles that run along there, specifically in the upper section. This helps you bend over. All right. Staying seated now, we're going to do a little bit more of our glutes. So a big issue people often have, muscles through their glutes. We're going to start with a piriformis stretch. So this one, we cross our legs like a guy crosses their legs. Now let's cross our legs like a lady crosses her legs. So cross your legs over sort of this way, but leave a space in there. And then what you can do is you can either grab the top and just pull it to you, or if you can reach all the way around, you can grab and pull it to you like this. So we'll just grab the top, pull it into us. And again, if this is uncomfortable, you can go back to that other one where you simply were in the same position, but instead of pushing down here, you bent forward. So it'll hit the piriformis from a slightly different angle. I prefer this one, but if you like the other one better, that's fine too. So straight back. You're basically trying to pull gently your knee to the opposite shoulder. Okay. Then the other one comes up, cross it over. Gently pull to the opposite shoulder. Now I'm going to move on to one other stretch before I show the back version of this, because the advanced version is going to be on the floor, and the advanced version, the other one's going to be on the floor. So we'll finish this round, and then I'll show you the next stretch, also working the glutes. Okay. So the next one, we're going to pull basically our knee to, instead of our opposite shoulder, the same shoulder. So just take your leg, raise it up on the chair, and then gently pull your leg into your chest. Okay, so that's one round. For the next round, I'm going to show you a little bit active version of this. So we have 30 seconds, and I'll just show you that, which is you can do it by raising and lowering your legs. So raise one leg, try and do it without grabbing it until the top, then grab it, pull it in, hold it for a second, lower it back down. Raise the other leg without using your hands till it's at the top, then you can grab it, pull it in for the stretch, and lower it back down. And going back and forth like this is a good abdominal exercise of lifting your leg. It engages your hip flexors. Pull it in, you get that good glute stretch, and go back down. So you can go back and forth like that for a minute and hit both sides if you want to do that version. Okay. So advanced version of the piriformis stretch. Again, we're going to go to the ground. So we get down to the ground in our controlled fashion. And the advanced version of the piriformis stretch is a similar stretch. What we're going to do with our legs straight is put one leg over just like it was above and do the exact same thing. Just that now having our core no longer confined allows us to stretch out a little bit easier. And there'll be one more, even more advanced version of stretch I'll show you next. Again, you can just pull it to yourself. If you're flexible enough, you can wrap your whole hand around it and pull it in like this. Okay, and the very advanced version of this stretch, which is what I prefer to do it, is take one leg and move it back this way. So take one leg, cross it in front of you. So your opposite heel is touching the opposite butt cheek. And then take the leg and put it over there. So you tied yourself into this lovely pretzel. And for whatever reason, I think this hits it the best. And then stretch it like that. Again, keeping this leg straight is fine. Also, as you move this leg around that angle into this position, and maybe it's a thing with me, sometimes my knee gets a little bit clicky, so just, relax it and move it back and shake it out and move it in again. But doing this in the chair is great. Doing it on the floor with a straight leg is also great. Okay. And the last one we did in that chair. So now the version of that is simply on the floor by lying on your back and basically moving the knee up, holding it in place, and holding the stretch. So I'll show this one side for 30 seconds, and then with the other 30 seconds of this, I'm going to show you the active sort of exercise dynamic version of this stretch, which you might be able to guess given you saw it in the chair, which is going to be basically kicking the legs back and forth. So the active dynamic version of the stretch would basically be lifting one leg up, grabbing, pulling the stretch for a few seconds, lowering it down, lifting the other leg up. And again, we're working our hip flexors and our abdominals here. Everything nicely controlled. No jerking motions. No reaching for stuff. Nice and slowly. Okay. And so you could do that, just that exercise for about a minute to cover your two 30-second sets. All right, our next stretch is side to side. So now we're going to move up to our abdominal section. No, I skipped something. I guess we can do side to side. So we're going to do side to side stretching. Feet shoulder width apart, maybe a bit wider than that. And then what we're going to do is take one hand and we're going to go over and we're going to lean. And this is one of those stretches where you really should play around with it, specifically moving your hips forward and backward to see where you feel most comfortable. You can rest your hand on your thigh to support you, or not if you like, either way. Put your hand behind your head if you feel more comfortable that way. I really do like having the hand up though. I feel much less of a stretch if it's down. So I'd suggest at least having it behind your head, or just resting it there is fine, or you can leave it dangling in this position if you like. And again, play with your hip motion, play with your knee motion. Find a position that's you feel a good stretch, but also you feel generally comfortable and in a nice stable position. And we'll move to the other side. Hard to see my watch from here. Hmm. 5 seconds really, okay. And so for an active version of this stretch, you could basically slowly move in and out of the stretch from side to side. So going over here, holding the stretch for a few seconds, then nice, slow, and controlled, going back and holding the stretch. This is a good one to be very careful with. Be slow and controlled. There's lots of muscles around this zone that are smaller that you can tweak, that run up through your back and sections like that. So don't push it. Don't jerk your legs forward or back. Be nice and slow and controlled as you go through this. Probably keep your head up. I'm keeping my head down because I have to look at my watch, but it is a good idea to keep your head up while doing this stretch. Okay. Abdominals and lats. So a similar thing for our abs. We're basically just going to kind of have our feet shoulder width apart, hands on our knees, and just sort of lean backwards and push our hips out. And hold that for 30 seconds. Again, this is something you can play with. You can move a little bit as you do it. See if you like leaning back more, moving your hips out more, keeping them straight, keeping your knees bent, playing around with it. You should feel a nice good stretch in your abdominals, but be in a nice good comfortable position. All right, now our lats. Lats, we're going to find a table. We're going to put our hands on the table. And we're going to step back far away from the table and bend down. And gently, very gently, kind of pull back from the table just a little bit. And this will stretch our lats. If you want to make this version of the stretch dynamic, you can just come in and out of it. It's a good exercise. Gives you sort of a little squatting routine. Good for mobility in your knees. Also dynamic stretching, very good for the muscle you're stretching. If you're doing dynamic stretching, every time you go in the stretch, try and just relax a little bit more into the stretch. Don't push yourself in the stretch, but kind of feel those muscles that are tense. Just relax a little bit more and see if you can get the stretch a little bit farther by relaxing, but not pushing into it. All right, the advanced version of these stretches, go down for the abdominal version. So the abdominal version is going to be on the ground. You're going to be laying on your stomach. I hope you can still see me. You're going to take your elbows and put them here, and that's it. You're just going to sit here for 30 seconds. As you do this, I always find this stretch is a good one. Think about your breathing and relaxing into the stretch. A good way to visualize it here or think about it is your belly button. Take a deep breath in, let it out, and see if you can relax your abdominal muscles so that your belly button kind of touches the floor more. So it should feel a little bit engaged with the floor. Take a deep breath in, breathe out, and see if you can kind of relax your stomach to let it make more contact with the floor. All right. For the advanced lat one, I do really like this just dynamic version of the one on the table. So I'd recommend that. If you really prefer a floor version though, for 30 seconds here, I'll just show you child's pose. Very exciting. Also good for some knee stretching. But basically, put your hands out as far as you can with your butt slightly off your knees. Right here. And then just sit down onto your legs. And this is called child's pose in yoga. Gets you a good stretch through your pecs, through your lats. All right. Hold it for 5 more seconds. I'm going to grab a sip of water. Okay, that's good. All right. So now we're done with the core. Now we're up into the shoulders. So the first one we're going to stretch is our pectoral muscles. We're going to do this with a wing position. So basically take your hands, interlace them together, put them behind your head, good posture, looking up, and just use your shoulder muscles, the back shoulder muscles, to pull your arms back. And hold that for 30 seconds. Don't pull super hard, just pull them back, and you'll probably start to feel a gentle stretch in your chest, and that's great. Just hold it right there. So I'll show you the dynamic version of this stretch in a minute. If you want a more static version of the stretch you can get into, this is a great stretch, and I'm going to release it now, but keep going with it if you're doing it. To do in a doorway, so basically just take your hands like this into a doorway and just gently lean into it. The more advanced version of the stretch is higher up, helps stretch your pecs more. Easier version, lower down, less tension on them. Okay, that's 30 seconds for that. We're going to do our wrists. Wrists is pretty easy. Find a table, take your hands, point your palms away from you, and just roll them onto the table like this. This is the only stretch I do for my wrists. There's other stretches you can do, like a hammerlock stretch where you stretch the other direction. I find those to be more painful than pleasurable. I probably should do them, but I don't. So if you want to, effectively just stretch your wrists in the opposite direction, but I do not do them. Okay, that's 30 seconds. And now we're going to go back to the wing and we'll do the advanced version of the stretch. So now this is just the dynamic, active version of this stretch. Again, lacing fingers together, hands behind the head, pull back, feel the little stretch, and release. And then slow and controlled, pull back. We're not flapping our arms. We're not doing it quickly. We're doing nice 3-second releases, 3-second pulls, maybe a second or two hold, and then release. Nice and controlled and slow. Again, if on any of these you don't have to do the advanced one, I'm just showing you them both. All right, wrists again. Nothing advanced for the wrist. We're just going to go back into the same stretch. Palms down forward. So we're almost done here. One more stretch after this for some shoulders. So hopefully you can start out with doing this with just the introductory stretches and go through several routines of those. And as you feel more comfortable, maybe start to experiment with some of the advanced stretches. Just do a set or two here, a set or two there. Then hopefully you'll get to the point where you'll be doing the advanced stretches. There's a lot of good stuff in there, both with mobility and with stability and muscle tone. Again, I encourage you to use the floor, working on getting up and down off the floor. A good mobility exercise in and of itself. All right. Final stretch we're going to do is just a cross arm stretch for the outside of the shoulders. This is a pretty basic one, classic one. You're just going to go across, basically try and take your forearm just below your elbow and hold it up. Again, another one you should experiment with. You know, do you like it up high? Do you like your arm down low? I like my arm in a nice low, relaxed position, just with this arm pulling it in. This is a stretch where if you feel tightness through your chest when you're doing this, probably hold off on doing this stretch and work on stretching out your pectoral muscles. You probably just have some tightness going through there that's causing your joints to contract on certain ligaments in there. And if you open up your chest muscles a little bit, that'll hopefully relax that. Okay, slowly release that. Gonna go to the other side. Again, play around with it. Feel the position you like. Where do you like that stretch? Feel in a good stable position. All right, release that. No advanced version here. Just going to go back in the same one. So again, as we finish out here, hopefully you can do the basic routine at least to start with. And you should do this every day, at least once a day. If you can get 3 sets in, that's awesome. 2 sets is sort of what we're going for. 3 sets is great. If you want to be a true champ, you can do it twice a day for 2 sets. Again, everything should feel, you should feel a nice good stretch, but you shouldn't feel any sort of pains, clicking, things like that. The next day, if you feel a little bit of muscle soreness, that's okay. But if you're getting stiffness of joints and things like that, try some different stretches, try some more gentle movement to get into those stretches. Sometimes you can stretch things a little bit too aggressively. You might need to take some time off from a certain stretch. Particularly if you're having issues with certain muscles, maybe stretching them out feels good as you do it, but it might not help them. Maybe it's better to stretch muscles around or that are in contradiction to them. So don't cause yourself any pain, but do lean into that nice, good stretching sensation you get when you do it. All right. Hope you enjoyed the routine.